As promised, here is part 3 of choosing your next weapon. In this episode, I'll be going over sniper rifles, DMRs, and battle rifles. I'll be testing them at this range, where I've tested other guns on this series, but I've made a few modifications to clean things up a little bit. Quick disclaimer, off screen, before I make these videos, I spend hours testing these guns in actual servers, spending my money in real servers on their attachments and figuring out how to set them up best, which is the setup you're going to see them with in this video. At least what works for me. The main takeaway from that is I've shot all of these guns a lot and I know what they're good at and what they're not good at, and I'm going to explain to you how they're bad or how they're good investments. The Scar 17 is probably one of my favorite guns in the game. It has a lot of damage, and the recoil is not so bad. I know you can see the scope jumping around here quite a bit, but once you get used to it, it's not the worst thing in the world. Along with most battle rifles in this game, they're not exceptional DMRs or long-range rifles, but they're better at that than most assault rifles, or pretty much all of them. Battle rifles excel mid-range. They can go out to long range sometimes, and if you're trying to do close quarters with the battle rifle, you will find that the magazines run out very quickly on all of them, especially because they have full auto compared to DMRs, which only have semi-auto. Well, I'm going to leave you to decide if this gun's worth buying. With all of the guns on this list, their ammo is very heavy, and for this gun to be filling the role of more of an assaulter, let's say for example you're replacing your M4 with this, you're carrying an extra probably good 15 to 20 pounds just in ammo by switching over, even if you carry the same amount of mags. Damage boost is nice, especially if you're stealthing. You won't have to worry about them running away when you shoot them in the head. They should drop immediately since this gun does well over 100 headshot. But it is not the best value battle rifle in this video, and that's where we're moving to next. The SA-58, also known as the FAL or FAL, shoots extremely flat in this game, and you can also equip it with a 30-round magazine, which I've done here. This is definitely one of the best value guns in the entire game. It just performs extremely well in almost every scenario, as long as you're not sniping out to like 3,000 feet. My only real issue with this gun is lack of customization as far as handguard and stocks go. There's just two options. Same goes for the camo. You have the default camo, which is just black, and then the Shadow Raid camo, which is a game pass. And it honestly doesn't even look that good on this gun. But if you can get past the lack of customization in those areas, this gun is a true performer for the price. Here comes the HK417. You might know it from Fan Forces back when that game was good. It's pretty much the same performance as the Scar, but at a higher price. It is not the same gun as the G28, just with full auto. They're quite different statistically and in weapon handling. It also has inferior customization compared to the Scar. This also suffers from the same fate as the FAL, with only having 2 handguard and stock options. But it is worth noting that this gun does have all of the camo options, minus the Recce, RAL 8000, and Shadow Raid. Overall, it's pretty average considering the FAL and the Scar H are its only competitors, and it performs similarly. But for how it's priced, you would be expecting more, and I can't see a reason to buy it over those two. Now we're on to DMRs, and this is a poor excuse for a DMR, so let's move on to an actual one. Still not my favorite DMR, and let's talk about why. This only holds 10 rounds in the magazine. I know the M110 comes with the 10 round magazine stock, or it can, but it has a 20 round mag option. This gun does not. It has similar stats, matter of fact, to the M110, so you can't necessarily say that one is vastly superior to the other. The optics mountings are the same, and you can add pretty much the same attachments, except you only have one laser / flashlight rail. And I find that if you put anything that isn't the ironclad on top of it, you're going to need an optic riser to see over whatever that attachment is. So you're pretty much stuck to running just this laser. Despite it being more of an unused rifle in the game, you can still fit a suppressor on it, and there's quite a few camo options as well. The SVD also has slightly more recoil than the other DMRs, even with the bipod down, but it is not a complete piece of trash that's unusable that you should avoid. I think if you're wanting to go for the vibe, definitely spend the $1,200. It's not that much money, and it gives you a usable gun while not the best in its class. The OTS-3 is kind of a doohickey in that in the DMR role, it's not the best. You cannot put a bipod on it, which severely hinders it in my opinion, and it has the 10-round mag issue that the SVD has. But in PvP, where bipods are not allowed anyways, and you want a gun that reliably headshots and you can just spam it close quarters, especially with that short barrel and an insanely cheap suppressor, this gun really shines in PvP, but in open world, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This gun doesn't have much recoil. It can be run very fast, minus the 10-round mag thing that I keep talking about. Overall, not the best DMR. Matter of fact, it's probably the worst DMR, but it has its special little niche that in PvP I find it exceptional. Here we have the HK-G28. It's more pricey and higher level than the two DMRs I just showed you. We're starting to get into the good stuff. And the recoil is quite jumpy. You can put a bipod on it, as of the rest of the DMRs in this list, in order to reduce the recoil. That being said, whenever I use DMRs, I rarely end up using the bipods. I just have them on there for extra weight to reduce recoil a little bit as I'm standing. As the time of recording, there are only 2 handguard, stock, and barrel options, so you're kind of limited on customization there, but they did just add more camo options, so that's good. Overall, a pretty solid DMR. I'll tell you, go ahead and buy it if you want to spend a lot of time with the DMR. You will certainly not be disappointed with this one, but there are other options. Now, I'm not a huge M110 guy. I know there are a lot of you out there who will just die by this gun, but I am not one of those people. I'm going to give you an honest take on this gun. It has less recoil than the G28, and it has more range with virtually the same weight. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's pretty much just a direct upgrade for cheaper. It also features slightly more customization in the handguard barrel suppressor and stock department, as well as having a couple different grips. Other than that, it is marginally better for a lot less, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why you would go with the G28 over the M110 if you're just looking for a performance-oriented DMR. That being said, I do think that this is the best DMR in the game currently. That does not mean it's the best gun in the game or the best sniper in the game. We'll get to that in a minute. That being said, the other DMRs are still worth trying, as the M110 only beats them out marginally. If you asked me why you should wait another 30 levels and spend another $300 for a gun that weighs an extra pound and performs worse than the original M110, I would say you shouldn't. Now you might say, hey, but it has an extra 900 some odd feet of range. Cool. At that range, it's doing less than 100 headshot damage and about 30 torso damage. So you're going to be just trying to repeat those shots over and over again at 3,600 feet, mind you, when an actual sniper rifle can do it with just one shot. Not to mention how hard it is to actually find 3,600 feet of distance between you and the enemy without being completely outside of the compound range, which will despawn all of the enemies. If you're trying to solo, that is. For a DMR, that extra range trade-off you're making when going to the M110A3 from the M110 is just not a practical trade-off. It should be said that this gun can outperform the M110 past 2,200 feet, but that is a highly theoretical situation. You will not find yourself in that range very often, and for that reason, I'm not placing it above the M110. Moving on to one of the best value guns in the game is the M24. And if you look back at the stats of the M110, you will notice that the damage stats are pretty much identical, along with the range and bullet speed stats. That's because, once you're looky there, it uses the same exact bullet. Same goes for the G28. This is the only sniper that you can reload in the middle of shooting without dropping the entire magazine. Speaking of magazines, this gun doesn't have one, which allows it to do that, and it feeds directly from 20-round boxes, which makes carry-around ammo extremely efficient. Other than that, this has the second best in class recoil and bolt speed, which makes follow-up shots very easy with this gun. Bad things about this gun are there are no suppressor options, no customization as far as the stock and handguard goes, and there's only one camo option, and that is the Shadow Raid camo. But if you can get past that, this gun is far from a gimmick. I find it quite enjoyable to use, even when considering other sniper rifles in the game. Here we have the M2010, also known as the Remington MSR. It has pretty good damages due to it being chambered in 300 Winchester Magnum, a new cartridge in this video. It is above the weight of the M24, though it does deliver far past the M24's range, and it does that with more damage. Yippee! That means one-shot headshots more reliably, especially over DMRs. It's worth noting that 100 torso damage does mean a one-shot torso, but only at about point-blank range. Once you start getting past about like 20 feet, it becomes a two-shot torso, much like your DMRs and most sniper rifles. You are limited to a 5-round magazine, which you burn through pretty quickly with this gun's fast bolt speed. And when you compare it to the M24, you might think that this gun is wildly overpriced, but as we'll see with the other snipers, this gun is actually priced quite appropriately, and I do recommend it for those who are either wanting a decent sniper, or if you're entering to snipers and you want to skip the M24, go ahead and get this thing. You won't be disappointed, but you will be carrying less bullets. Here we have the gun from Counter-Strike. It is chambered in 338 Lapua Magnum. It does 160 some odd headshot damage and 104 torso damage. It's noting that now we're doing above 100 torso damage. This gun one-shots torso out to about 600 or 700 feet. It's worth noting that the recoil and the magazine size is identical to the Remington MSR, and camo options were added recently to this gun, so you can look all gillied out with a semi-arid camo if you so choose. Overall, the price increase over the Remington MSR and the M24 are justified, as that extra damage and range boost is quite beneficial when you're sniping. Next up is the G22A2. This gun performs very similar to the Remington MSR, and it has only one torso damage boost over it. It costs more than the Counter-Strike gun, but it does less damage. But it is worth noting that this gun has the fastest bullet speed in the game. What does that mean? Well, that means that you get very little drop at range, and the time that the bullet takes to hit the target is greatly reduced. For example, if you are tracking an enemy who's walking sideways or perpendicular to where you're aiming, in theory you will have to make less windage adjustments when you're taking your shot. I personally would buy the Counter-Strike gun over this unless you're a person who doesn't use rangefinders and you just want a gun that's going to consistently hit extremely close to where you're aiming, no matter the range. Here we have the Ultima Ratio. It is the Hecate's little brother, and it shoots insanely fast. Statistically, it is not the best. It does not one-shot torso at any ranges, and I will tell you, Unfortunately, you cannot put a bipod on this gun, which makes it extremely annoying when you're actually sniping. There are many different barrel options. You can go all the way down to, I believe, a 15-inch barrel on this, which makes it nice and compact if you do use this gun in PvP, where I believe it shines the best. Not only because of its insanely fast bolt speed and 10-round magazine, but also because it's insanely quiet when you equip the integrally suppressed barrel. All in all, it's not the best open-world sniper, but it is worth noting that 10-round magazine does make it the highest capacity sniper in the game. It definitely holds its own in PvP, and it's surprisingly customizable for being a more forgotten about gun in the game. I will include that if you do choose to use this sniper in open world, you will need the unsuppressed barrel in order to reach out to its maximum range of about 3,300 feet. Next is the Hecate II, and if you have a problem with the way I'm pronouncing that, I will call you a simp for this character. Name aside, this gun does a lot of headshot damage and torso damage, but it only goes out to about 3,200 feet. The ammo is extremely heavy, and the 7-round magazines take up 4 slots, so it's very impractical if you're going without a vehicle to carry the ammo for you. The bolt speed is insanely slow, which means making follow-up shots or killing multiple targets at once very difficult. When you consider that a good sniper will make consistent headshots, the damage boosts don't really make sense, as the G22, for example, can make those one-shot headshots out to much further distances a lot quicker, and you can carry a lot more bullets with that gun as compared to this. All said and done, this is an extremely compromised sniper rifle. I find it hard to see any kind of practicality with the amount of weight you are carrying. I'm also going to add that this being employed as an anti-material rifle for destroying vehicles or going through walls is not a thing in this game. Bullets will never penetrate walls unless you stick your barrel up against the wall and shoot through it that way in third person. And I've tried shooting vehicles with this gun and it performs terribly. You're better off just mag dumping with a pistol or an M4. And with that, that is the end of the Choosing Your Next Weapon series. Finally, I've been wanting to get on to much better videos, and I'm glad that this series is finally over. I'd also like to thank you for making my channel grow. We are already at like 1,700 subscribers. I knew this channel was gonna do pretty well considering there's not a lot of in-depth content on this game, but I still cannot thank you enough for your support. I read every single comment, so if you have a video idea or any questions, just leave it in the comment section below and I will get to it as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. Dude.
That's terrifying.
I see nothing.
I see a whole lot.
Jesus Christ! I think we took a wrong turn somewhere. Oh no, we're stuck. This is really bad. Come on. We're good. I died.